Hello guys, welcome to third session of Selenium WebDriver training series. So in this series, we will learn about what is DOM, what is object identification, what is find element and find elements, what are the Selenium locators, and we'll see few examples along with some tips and tools. Before understanding object identification, it is very important to know about the DOM. So DOM is nothing but document object model. So if you browse through any web page, check this. So this web page contains various elements. This is called as a text box. This is called as a label. This is called as a button. And this is called as a header. So these various control is defined in a HTML page called as a document, and each object is defined with certain standards that is called as a DOM. So before getting into much about the DOM, let's see what are the different aspects of your DOM. So the DOM is the first step is defined as a root element. So under this root element, you can see various elements. This is a header element, this is a body, and under header you can see the title, and in the body you can see input is nothing but a text box, and a anchor tag is specially used for define hyperlinks, and this input will have various attributes called as id, name, and these can be used to identify the objects or controls uniquely. And similarly for anchor tag you can see text and href. So if you look at the web page that we just opened, you see just take any web page and right click, you can see view page source. You see this is a source code of this particular web page, and this is called as a document. And if you look at this, this is a root element and is nothing but this is the HTML. It's a parent, it's the topmost parent element, and under this you can see the header. The header is this, and header will hold the title, and this is the title, and this is the information about the style sheets to give some alignments or width or height of the elements. And under this again you can see the way another body, and you can see the header, and you can see input is nothing but about this particular text box, and it's defined with some attributes called as type, id, name. If you see, this is called as attributes. So these attributes are used to locate your objects uniquely. So if you wanted specifically look at this particular element, right click and inspect. You can launch the similar thing if you press F12 and just mouse over. You see, this is the input. This is called as a tag, and the type is attribute, id is an attribute, and name is an attribute. So these attributes are very helpful to locate these web elements. So this is pretty much about DOM. So DOM is nothing but document object model. So now we'll look at locators. So in order to identify, or in order to instruct the tool to recognize the HTML controls, Selenium will depends on locators. So locators are nothing but it's a way to identify any element on your web page. So these are the various locators are available, and the first one is the ID and the name and CSS selector, XPath, linkText, partialLinkText, tag name, class name, and these two are specifically used for hyperlinks. And these tag name and class names are these are may not be appropriate to identify uniquely, but it has some other purposes that we'll discuss later. And let us look at one by one. Before looking into the locators, let's see there are few Selenium methods which are helpful to identify the objects. The first one is find element. So find element is one of the Selenium method which can be used to identify the object. So the syntax would be driver, it's nothing but this is a WebDriver instance, dot find element is nothing but we are instructing WebDriver to use this method to locate using id by dot id. And similarly we have another method called as find elements. This is also same, but this will return you the list of web elements. So these are the two important methods which we can use to identify any web object. So let's see how it works. So now this is my test script which I have written to we have seen this in first video. I'm setting the WebDriver Chrome path and I'm using Chrome driver WebDriver initialization, and driver.get will open this local sample page. Let's see how it works. So I'm just running in a debug mode so that this will open web page. Now this is opened a local sample page. So have a look at, so you got this. So now we will see how the driver.find element will work. Inspect, this is what we just seen, just to look at the DOM, and you see this is the input and this is also one more input. So these are the various controls. Now we will look at how we will write driver dot find element by dot, and here you need to select any of the property as we are discussing about the id. So let's copy the id property over here. This is the f name is the id, so copy that, and we copied id, so we need to use by dot id f name dot send keys is one of the method to send the text to, like this is to enter value in this particular text box. So we'll see now. Right click, inspect. So inspect is one of the way you can do quickly check how that particular step is working. So the simple step is right click and inspect, so that you see the test is entered because we have used dot send keys. This is how by dot id will use it to identify any web element. So here what we need to see, another method is find elements. So I'm writing find elements. So you see the find element and find elements. So find all elements within the current page using the given mechanism. So this is returning you the list of web elements. If you look at over here, this will return list of web elements. This is and this will return single web element. So list of web element is if you say like, hey driver, find elements by that some tag name a, means this will return all the web elements matching to given tag name. So let's see, if I say driver dot find element by that tag name input, means this will return 1 2 3. So this is how the find element and find elements will work. Let me continue this. Find elements, find all elements within the current page using the given mechanism. So here we'll be using by is a class name. We'll discuss this again. Dot by dot tag name, and if you give input, look at this input, input 1, input 2. This is select again. If I say copy this and use it over here, and if you get size will give you the count. So just to know how many are there, I'm giving the count. So right click and inspect just to evaluate. You see 3. So because WebDriver is finding the elements with the matching tag name with input 1, 2, and then 3. This is because this is the tag name, right? So if you look at over here, this is the first matching element by the tag name input, and this is by the tag name input second, and by the tag name third. So this is how that particular by dot or find elements will work. So now let's see how one of the way to identify web objects. So far we have just seen by dot id, right? So I'm giving you an example over here. So assume that your HTML source code is like this. So this is your HTML source code. Okay. So this is to define certain input, and now how we can write some code to identify using WebDriver. So we just discussed driver is an WebDriver instance, and find element is a method to identify any web element on a web page, and by is a class, and ID means this is one of the way to identify object. So if you give id over here, what property we need to copy? We need to copy this id property, so that WebDriver will use that particular thing, identify that particular web object. Just a moment. So now what are we trying to do? Now we are trying to identify using the id. Let's see one more example. Identify you the element using id property. So driver dot find element is a method. Okay, select this, and by dot by is a class, and you can see the various methods. We are talking about id. Select id, and you need to check what is the element is l name, right? So we'll be copying that, pasting over here. I think, yeah, it should be caps dot send keys. Send keys is a method to enter value in text box, last name. So just to check, you need to select this, right click and inspect. So no exception thrown. You see the last name is typed into that particular text box. So this is one of the best way to locate your object using id. So this is just seeing another example. Clear. So clear is one of the method, just to clear the existing text. So this will clear what is the value already there. Inspect. You see, this is gone. So this is how you can you can identify using id property. So the next we'll see about the name. So in previous example we have seen using id. Now we'll see how we can use it using the name. So this is the second locator in Selenium WebDriver. So as we said, driver dot find element by dot name, because we are using the name so that we have to copy the name attribute value. So this is the second way. So let's see one example. So now this is my window already opened, and we have just seen this example to identify using ID. Now we'll see identify using name. Okay, so driver is a WebDriver instance, find element is a method, by dot. Now this time we are using name, and we have used name here, so we need to copy the name property from the HTML source code. Look at this. Just inspect it to make sure. The first name, and what is the name property? The name property is as fname. Copy that, paste over here, and dot clear, just to clear the value if something already there. Now I'm copying this because we are using the same object now to enter some value. Dot send keys is a method to input first name, and now select these two lines. Let's see, there's nothing right now. Select these two and right click and inspect. You see the first name is entered. So this is the second way of identifying objects using name method. So by dot name. So okay, so now we'll use the CSS. So CSS also is one of the best way to you locate elements. So now this is again my source code, and now we'll see the syntax. So we'll be using driver dot find element by dot CSS selector is a method now, and here we need to write your CSS locators. So to write your CSS locators, we need to use like, so the tag name is nothing but this is my tag name. Okay, input is my tag name, and attribute name is, you can take any of the attribute, ID or name and whatever. So means you need to be careful because you need to select the best locator, best attribute. So if you select this, it may not be the appropriate. Either you can select this or you can select this as attribute name equals to attribute value is nothing but the first name. So let's see one example. So now look at this, driver dot find element by dot CSS selector is a method, and this input is copied from this is a tag name, and name is attribute name, this is from here, and the value is this is. So this is how you can identify using CSS selector. So the takeaway is you need to use CSS selector method, and this is the syntax to use this particular values. So let's see one example. Input name, and this is the name we used, and this is the value which we are passing. So I have my WebDriver opened over here. This is my window, and the session is still on. I haven't closed it. So now we are checking one example using CSS selector. So driver means the WebDriver window, find element by dot CSS selector is a class method. So now we need to use the particular syntax. The tag name is nothing but you need to copy the tag name. So just look at this, the last name we are looking at, the tag name is input. Copy this and put it in place of tag name, and attribute name equals to, so you need to use the best attribute. So either you can use ID or name. If you take type, that would be because you can see many objects with the type, so that's why I'm picking up the ID. equals to the last name. So copy that attribute value. Okay, so this is double close that quotes. Okay, now dot send keys, use some value. This is to check this is identifying properly or not. So there is nothing enter now. Right click and inspect. You see no exception. So this is the third way to identify using CSS selector. So hope you got it right. So by .css selector and the tag name and attribute name equals to attribute value. So this is the third method to identify using CSS selector. So now let's jump on to the fourth method. So fourth way is identify using XPath. So again, this is my HTML source code. The syntax is driver dot find element by dot XPath. You can say double slashes tag name square bracket at the rate attribute name equals to attribute value. So let's see one example over here. So this is example. So how this is works. So same way. Let me show you. This is a method by data XPath, and this is for the same way, and the tag name is input is nothing but this is the tag name I used, and you need to use the attribute name and value. So you can use any of the attribute ID, type, name, or this. So but you need to choose the right one and which is unique. And I used name at the rate name is, and the name value is first name, and this first name is comes and sit over here. So this is how you can run, you can use driver dot find element by dot XPath and XPath value to identify any web element. So let's see one example. This is the one, and this is attribute name, and this is attribute value. Similar one more example. If you would like to use another attribute ID, you can say ID. I used ID. I need to copy the attribute value of ID, that is first name hyphen atrk. Right. So let's see one more example. My WebDriver window is opened over here. So driver means the Chrome driver dot find element. So means we are telling the WebDriver to find element by dot XPath. Now copy that XPath. So we need to use the slashes and the tag name input because we are trying to enter value in text box, right? So this is the tag name. Just use this tag name input. ID equals to first name. So at the rate ID equals to first name and close the tag dot. You can use send keys and write first name whatever the value which you would like to type. That's it. So now there is nothing. Select it, right click, inspect. You see this is typed using that. So this is not necessary to use XPath or CSS selectors if you have ID or names are unique. So these are useful if you don't find anything which is unique, then only you can go for either CSS selectors and XPath. So that we will see in while discussing more about XPath and its usage. So just focus on how you can write your XPaths using by.xpath method. Okay, this is a f name is the attribute name and at the rate name is the attribute. So This is the value which we are trying to enter. Just to rechecking, select it, inspect. You see the value is successfully typed in the first name text box. So this is how you can identify using XPath. So now we see about the link text. So basically link text is used only to identify the hyperlinks on your web page. Hyperlinks are nothing but any link. So means clicking upon that will redirect your browser to the specific URL. So assume that this is my object HTML code, which is tagged with anchor tag, and now my syntax is driver dot find element by is a class dot link text. So link text is a method, and you need to use your link name. So here it is nothing but the legal. Look at this example. So you see over here, this is a method, and the link name is nothing but the legal is nothing but this is coming from here. This is to identify using a link text. Okay, so let's see one example. So we have seen by XPath, by ID, by name. Okay, so this is a code which is already had to launch the browser. So now we'll see how we can use the link text. So I'm running in debug mode, so that browser is launched and it's halted at particular web page. You see, so we have two links over here, the Selenium website and Google. These are the two hyperlinks. So right click and inspect, see to see what are those HTML object properties, and you see this is the one, and you see there is a text Selenium website. Got it? Copy this and click on link driver dot find element by dot link text. Okay, so this is a method. Copy that link, Selenium website. Okay, dot link, generally we do click, so select the click method. So it should click on this particular link, select it and inspect. This is the beauty of running in debug mode, because instantly you can check your code how it is performing. See, it is navigated to this particular site. So this is how driver dot find element by dot link text will work. This is a after clicking on this link, this is navigated to this site. Just to recheck, I moved it. Now if you wanted to click on this link, you need to type that link text. So it's always better to inspect and copy that hyperlink to Google, select it and change this, paste it, right click and inspect. You see this is navigated to google.com. So this is how you can use by.linkText to click on the web links. So let's move on to the another one, which is called as partial link text. So assume that your HTML code is like this, okay, and your syntax should be driver dot find element by dot partial link text, and here we are not giving the complete text, we are only giving the partial. Means for this particular case, so you can use either leg or you can use either l or you can use lega, so means even if you give any partial matching to this particular text also will work. So these are especially useful when you have the links properties which are not unique, like there are few links which are like legal 1, legal 2, and the numbers are dynamic. In such cases you can only give the text part, so that the WebDriver will identify using that particular matching text. But make sure that even if there are multiple links matching to this particular text, then the WebDriver will click on the first occurrence of that particular match. So that is about partial link text. Hope you got me right. So let's see one example. The same link which we are using, the Selenium website or Google. Now we will be writing the driver dot the same way to click on this, but instead of link text we will be using the partial link text. So click on link with partial link text. Okay guys, so driver dot find element, instead of link text I am changing it to partial. Press Ctrl space, this automatically gives you the code. So maybe an extra bracket. Yeah, okay. So you can give only the partial Selenium, that's it, not giving Selenium website. So just giving a partial link, right click, inspect. You see this is successfully clicked on Selenium website link. So you can even change it to something else like SELE also will work, or maybe website, because you see that is also matching to that Selenium website. Inspect. So move to this particular site. So this is about partial link text. So means with the partial matching of given text also will successfully work on this case. So now let's see one example over here. This is a practical example we can see. So we need to navigate to salesforce.com and identify username, password, and click on try for a free link. Also you can use the Palm Builder, is one of the Chrome plugin which is very helpful to copy the locators. So let's see this example how we can do this. So I'm opening my Eclipse. This is opening Eclipse. Okay, so now this is one my package. Okay, so now let me take one check. New package day_03. So you got this. Now we'll create one class object identification. Okay, use this main method so that you will have a main method created over here. So now you can write all your code over here. Okay, so the first step is to launch any WebDriver. Launch WebDriver. What is the code? So you need to type WebDriver control space. So you need to import this class. So driver equals to new is a keyword to create any new object. So Chrome driver control space, you get it. Okay, and again you need to set your WebDriver path, right? So remember this is so this is a code to launch your Firefox. So you can use either Firefox or Chrome. So but prior to this you need to set your driver path using system.setProperty. Okay, and you need to use, I'm copying this whole line. Instead of Gecko you need to write Chrome driver, and here you need to use Chrome driver path. So I think I have it over here under resources. I think I don't have it. I have only Gecko driver. So let me use only the Firefox here right now. Okay, and instead of Chrome I'll be using Firefox driver. Okay, the same code I'm using just to launch the Firefox, not Chrome. So and our intention is to launch the Salesforce URL. Okay, so where is my Firefox? Okay, so this is my practice code. I wanted to use this. Okay, just put it over here. So I'm just commenting it. Okay, so this is what we wanted to automate. So driver dot get is a command to navigate to any web page. We'll discuss this later. Driver dot get. Now driver dot find element. So this is a method which we have just learned. Okay, and find element, and you need to identify username, right? So go to this particular web page. So just to identify, right click, inspect. You see, I think ID is equal to username is the appropriate one. You can copy this, right? Inspect it, ID equal to username. As we copied ID over here, you need to use by dot ID. Okay, so paste that, username dot, close this, dot send the keys. Okay, test automation. Got it? So this is to enter value in your username text box. Just comment it, enter value in username text box. So the second action is to enter value in password text box. Okay, so same driver dot find element by dot ID. Now identify the password. Okay, so okay, this is the one. I'm sorry, right click, inspect, ID equal to password. You can use space, copy it, password dot send keys. Practice, you need to give the double quotes. This is to enter value in password. Okay, now click on try for free. Okay, this is the one we need to click, right click, inspect. So you can use try for free. This is the one, right? So select it. So for the links, what we use, driver dot find element by dot, we just seen, right? Link text, use this, sorry, paste it, okay, dot click. Link, generally we do the click. So save it. So rather, there are two ways to run this test script. One is you can right click and run as, means this will run without any break. If you wanted to see what is happening, just put some breakpoints, select here one breakpoint. You can use the right click and toggle breakpoint, or control shift B, both can work. Right click, toggle breakpoint. Now instead of running in run mode, now I am running in a debug mode. Debug as Java application. Now let's see how it works. So there is some exceptions. So generally these exceptions will occur if WebDriver path is not correct. The path the driver execute must be set by the Greco driver. So let's see what's went wrong. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't be the Firefox driver. It should be Geeko driver. Okay, so when there is an exception, so read this step thoroughly. Max time this will give you the right solution. At least it will help you to identify the solutions. So select it. Okay, so now I saved it. Debug as Java application. Okay, Firefox launched and navigated to Salesforce. Okay, so now close this window. Okay, this is the one which we are running. Look at this. Browser is under remote control, is nothing but launched by WebDriver. So this is a step over, means run in a step mode. Let's do it. You see test automation typed, and you see practice is typed. See the free trial link, clicked on it. So this is how you can work on using object identification. So this is how we just seen the practical examples. So the POM builder will see in coming sessions how to install it and how it will be useful. So just to give you a summary, so we have just seen on object identification in Selenium. So object identification is done by using the locators, and these are the few important locators. One is the ID. So if you use ID, you will be using driver.findElement by.id and ID value. And if you use name, driver.findElement by.name, and you need to copy the name property from your HTML control source code. And if you use CSS selector, you need to use driver.findElement by.css selector. And if you use XPath, you need to use driver.findElement by.XPath. If you use linkText, driver.findElement by.linkText. And if you use partialLinkText, you need to use by.partialLinkText. And the class name and the tag names are, there are many matching controls with this particular things. So we only use this if it's some special cases that we'll discuss later. So this is about the object identification in Selenium WebDriver. Thank you very much.